To that entrepreneur who's sitting there right now listening to this interview, feeling exhausted, secretly hating the fact that they're having to do everything by themselves, what do you say to them that will help them to make a different decision before they burn out and basically cost themselves their own business?
If you don't make that move to get support and help, you're going to still be stuck there. So you got to weigh the pros and cons. Which one do you want the most? And I think that's your answer there in terms of helping you to move forward. You always have to keep that. And I tell people that all the time. You always have to keep that goal in your head because that's what's going to help you.
Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast, the podcast that will equip both the seasoned sales professional and the more reluctant seller with mindset shifts and strategies needed to succeed in a competitive marketplace. Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. I am here today with someone who we met online a long time ago, and we'll tell you that story in just a little bit. I'm always glad to have you all here and just excited to introduce you to some amazing people. So let me introduce you to our friend Tanya. Why don't you start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself, about your company, but I want you to share something that we wouldn't find on your bio or on your website.
Sure. I'm Tanya Thomas. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Team Delegate. It is a US-based virtual executive assistant agency. I am based in Dallas, Texas, and something that people wouldn't know about me is I am a huge sports fan. And so I like to watch college football, right now, softball. I love those two sports.
Interesting. No, I didn't know that. So I'm also a huge sports fan. I played basketball, I played volleyball, and then I raised all boys. So I watched football for the last, 27, 30 years, watching them play. So that's actually something we have in common. I had no idea.
hmm Yeah, I was an athlete too. And so, yeah, I love to watch it.
Tell our audience how we got connected.
Sure. I had seen Tish, I'd seen you online and watched your videos for a few years. And then we finally had the opportunity to connect at a conference. And so it was like I knew you, when you've been following somebody and watching their videos. And so it was fantastic to finally get to connect and meet in person.
So what you have done for me is remind me to keep doing videos because it's so easy to feel like nobody's paying attention to this. I'm not doing this anymore. And you were the one that kind of made me say, okay, stay consistent because people are paying attention. So Tanya, tell us a little bit about how you got started in the virtual assistant world and how did you start your company?
Sure. I started back in 2001, and at that point in time, it wasn't many people in the field. And I remember having to educate people on what it was. I always wanted to have a business, and probably in my maybe early 20s or so when my husband and I were newly married and we traveled a lot for his work. And I wanted to have a staffing agency, and I had been checking into staffing franchises and all that type of stuff. But then I knew I would have to be stuck in one place while he traveled, and I didn't want to do that. And my mom was like, that's not the best thing for a marriage. And so, yeah, I decided to just table it, but I still had that entrepreneurial spirit. And I had been temping. I have a biology degree, but again, because he worked and we moved, so I just did temp jobs, clerical jobs. Well, fast forward when I had my first son, I was home on maternity leave, and I came across this training program to be a virtual assistant. And I'm like, okay, this sounds fantastic. It's like I've been doing this work. It's remote. It'll move with me. So I went through that training program and started doing it and did that, up until about probably, I would say 2012, I was still doing it, but I was having a session with my then business coach. And she says, you don't have a business, you just have a job you've created for yourself. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I have full clients. My practice was full, and I had been doing it at that point for but maybe 11 years. And so when I just, wiped it away, it's like, I don't even know what she's talking about. Well, fast forward, probably about 3 years, I began to feel some type of way about coming in here to the office. And
Mhm.
her words came back and they resonated, they hit home. And then I knew exactly what she meant. So I kind of toiled around with that for a couple of years, trying to decide what I wanted to do. But I knew I didn't want to eventually leave this industry because I liked it. I just realized I didn't like being the person doing it. And so that's when I decided to scale it into what it is today, which is the agency model.
Girl, you said so much in that little. I mean, this is the thing. So frequently, we start what we think is a business, but we really just have a fancy job and we might be getting paid a lot more for it. But at the end of the day, it's a job because if we can't continue to make money when we're not present, it's not a business at all. So, what were some of the steps that you took to go from having a very fancy job to really creating an agency? Because now you have to build a team in order to be able to do this work. What were some of the steps you took?
Sure. And I mentioned that part about wanting a staffing agency because it came full circle. And it's like I'm
Yeah.
doing that, but now it just looks different. But yeah, I knew the first thing that I needed to do was develop the foundation for it. I had to determine, what that would look like with me not being the person providing the service. And I knew I needed the first thing was systems and processes to be able to do that. So I actually probably took the first year building those and just laying that infrastructure for what that would look like. How, people would work with the clients, just different systems and stuff, platforms that we would use and what would that look like and writing all that stuff out. And that was the first step that I remember taking.
How did you begin to attract people that would become part of your team in the future?
That's what was helpful for me. And I'll say this because I used to think sometimes, what would it have looked like if I had started this agency back early when I kind of first started? But then I realized, God has his own timing and it was for a reason. And I knew that reason was because I had to do that work myself so that I
Mm.
fully understood it. And I think I always tell people that's my advantage today over other agencies is because I did it for 18 years myself. So that helped me develop what to look for when I was building my team.
Mhm.
It helps me have an insight to develop that profile, and kind of who we look for when we bring people on.
I think it's so interesting, Tanya, because I don't know that you knew this about me. You might. I think we might have talked about it. My first business was a staffing company. And I don't even know if I had as much insight as you did because you like put the processes in place. I had to do everything in reverse. I was just like, we're going to start and then we'll figure it out as we go along. But I understood early on that we needed to be able to leverage other people's strengths, experience, and time so that, we can actually build the business. And so, what are some of the things that you've done to really build and maintain a level of excellence for now, what, almost 20 years you've been in business, it sounds like?
Quality is huge for me. It always has been, even from day one. And so that's one thing that I hold in high esteem in terms of everything that we do. And again, the one way to do that was through the systems and the processes. And I always bring that up because that's huge. And people need direction, I think. And so as long as they know what that looks like and what success looks like, that's always helpful. I don't know if I'm really answering your question there, but that's
Yeah.
kind of what I.
I love it. So, Tanya, what does sales look like in your business? Meaning, are you still doing a lot of the sales? And if not, how have you established team members that are able to have those sales conversations to bring new clients into your company?
That's a good question there too, because for me, that's all I've wanted to do for
Mhm.
now. I wanted to get it to a point where my only role was the strategy, where's the company going, and the marketing and the sales. And so right now, those are my responsibilities. At some point, they won't be because I'm working to get out of that marketing and sales piece, but right now that is me. And I'll be transparent and say that's one area in terms of like building structure and systems and processes, because it's easy when it's just you. But when you're trying to, that was one big learning thing for me, because when you're trying to scale a company, that's a whole different ball game in terms of building structure around how you can have consistent leads and the sales process to turn those leads into clients and stuff like that. Because when it's just you, yeah, you can find a handful of people, and if you're doing good work, which I was back then, I kept my clients for 10 years. But it's different when you're trying to scale a company like this.
So true. But I love that you're already still having the forethought of knowing that you're needing to put the things in place so that you can begin to delegate that portion of it out. That's something we've been talking about like on repeat here in my company for the last several, definitely months, if not almost a year, is talking about how do we scale a company so that the owner of the company is not the bottleneck, right? We're not the only ones responsible for sales, because that means we can't go on extended vacations. You can't get sick. All of these things completely come to a stop when you're the primary face of the company, when you're the one that everybody looks to and you're the one that makes all of the sales. And so I'm glad to hear that you're putting some forethought into it right now, because I'm sure you've done well thus far. I'm sure you'll be able to figure that part out too. Are there any industries, Tanya, that you really feel like you all specialize in or really gravitate towards?
Yes, consultants, executive coaches, those seem to be our main core where we get the biggest attraction with clients. And that was the industries that I worked with too when I was solo. And I think it's because our primary support services deal in that realm, because most of those people are looking for that right hand person. They're really wanting executive assistant support and, help with their calendar, their inbox travel, proposals, different things like that. Those are just some of the things they're looking for support in those areas. And that's our bread and butter where we shine. So that's typically the industry we work with. And we do have other people in other industries, but I would say that's our main area.
If you're someone who hates to network because you don't always know what to say, I get you. I'm an introvert too, and I've created a free gift for you. It's my networking and sales handbook just for introverts, and it is at tishtimes.com. It'll be the first pop-up you'll see. Grab it. Let me know what you think about it. It's free. Go grab it right now. Have you all had to do any types of pivots or shifts with the new advent of AI and how more and more companies, both in administration and in, where it's, marketing, all the various things that you all might support people in? How are you all keeping ahead of the trend of people utilizing AI instead of using human connection?
Right. And I know that's a hot topic and a big one that I've had with people, because I've met people who have said, well, is that going to close you down? Or it's like, no, I mean, it's enhancing how we work. It's making us more efficient, because things that we do, those AI tools are helping us do them faster. And then I've even met people who will say, well, I don't need a person anymore because AI, but what I think a lot of people sometimes don't realize is you're still having to manage those things. So that's taking your time away when you could be doing something else, because you're still kind of having to tell it what to do. It may be doing some of it for you, but not 100%. And so I think, those tools have helped our industry in that sense, in terms of just helping us work more efficiently. So I do, talk with my team, and we stay up to date on different tools and things that we can use from an AI standpoint that's helping us.
Love it. Same with us. We're finding ways to do things faster, to, maybe deepen the way that we're able to do research and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, I think human connection is not going anywhere. What are your next steps? What do you have on the horizon to set yourself apart all the more in your industry as you're growing your company?
adding different service offerings. Because I find that delegation is still a challenge for a lot of people and how to do it effectively. So providing coaching around that is something that we do internally with our clients anyway, but then also just adding that as an external service. Sometimes I know people may need a W-2 full-time EA, so adding that service offering as well. Again, we have strong systems and how we can um, search, for those types of people. And so adding that as well. And so that's one thing that I am doing because I know that's important too in scaling a company is having the ability to have different service offerings. And so that's one thing that we are doing in order to grow.
I love that so much. So you said something that has been like also another hot topic of conversation with myself and with clients is the delegation piece. Many of us, when we're ready to hire, again, I have clients that we're trying to get to the place where they can bring on help so that they can scale their sales system, but they frequently don't know what to delegate and find themselves still doing quite a bit even after they've hired someone. So what are your top 2 or 3 tips that you would give to us around delegation? Because it's still a huge issue, even after someone has made the hire.
Right, exactly. Because we see that a lot. People, they want help, but they really don't know how to utilize it. And so, one of the big things I think is knowing exactly what you need help with. And so I know one thing we'll do is we'll, build out a plan for people, and that's helpful. The other thing is communication. I find too that a lot of people are super busy and they don't want to take the time to communicate. But it's still important to do that piece when you're delegating because the person gets to know you, your likes, your dislikes. And I know in our field, in terms of an executive assistant, that's huge because the better they know you, the better they're going to be able to support you. And so I think if you have those 2 areas down, knowing what it is that you need support with, and then the communication piece, and then also kind of knowing how to not micromanage, but still being there enough to kind of, know what's going on. So not abdicating the work. If you got all 3 of those areas down, I think you're doing it well. And I always tell people delegating is a skill set. So it is something that you grow a muscle in and you learn.
So how was that for you? Because again, I know that it's almost like the cobbler doesn't have any shoes, right? So sometimes we are really good at teaching it, not always really great at implementing it ourselves. How was it for you inside of your company being able to delegate and model what you're teaching and basically providing for other companies?
And that is a good, because what you said about the cobblers, I know that saying, and I used to be that in full transparency. I didn't have an assistant. And so until, recently, probably the last year, it's like, okay, I got to take my own advice and bring someone on, which I did, which helped me to actually get to the point where I am now, where I tell you that those are the areas where I'm focusing on in terms of what I do here in the company. But yeah, it's trying to take my, but it's helpful for me because now it's like, okay, I see what clients are dealing with, and I'm taking my own advice in terms of delegating because it is still even a muscle for me in terms of working with my EA and knowing kind of following those same steps that I just talked about, but I can understand what people are dealing with. And sometimes even from a fear standpoint, because that's another thing. Sometimes people just have the fear of kind of letting go of some things. And that can be challenging. And I have to tell myself, okay, yeah, you got to remember what's the end goal that you want. If you don't release this, you're not going to be able to move forward. So you got to step back, put the systems in place that's going to make myself feel comfortable to release that particular task and move forward.
Tanya, some of the things that you've been doing, you've been featured in Black Enterprise and Entrepreneur and Inc. and Home Business Magazine. I mean, it speaks volumes about your credibility. What do you think separates you and really allows you to be a truly respected business in the industry that is it's a very large industry, of course. What do you think you're doing differently besides the quality that I know you provide? What sets you apart and makes you so visible?
I think the experience. I don't know if many people. There are some because there was a few of us, but I don't know if those that are still in the industry. But I think the experience of having been in this industry now for going on almost 25 years, I think that's what sets me apart. Knowing the ins and outs of it like that, having, like I said, worked as a virtual EA myself for many years,
Mhm.
having that knowledge and then also scaling now helps me to understand what clients go through too. So I know both sides, what they're dealing with, and having that knowledge of both sides like that, I think is what sets me apart because I know the lingo and how to what the EAs are dealing with. So how to kind of coach there. And I know what clients are going through. So know how to kind of coach there. So I think that's what sets me apart.
Have you by any chance done either any research or just have information from your own client base how having the proper help in your business impacts your ability to sell more, to really increase your bottom line because you're not having to do all of the things by yourself?
Right. Now I know, some clients, they are utilizing their EAs and it's allowing them to be able to grow and sell more. For example, we had a client, she wanted to implement another service offering to try to sell that. She didn't have time before she came to us. So once she came to us and got her EA assigned and then got going with her, she was able to add that service offering and then spend time, selling that, and that was able to help her increase her revenue. So yeah, I mean, if you have that ability to be able to do something like that, if that's your goal, having
Mhm.
that support to allow you to be able to have that extra time. And I can even speak for that for myself because that was my struggle was the inconsistency and having the ability to be able to market and sell until I brought my EA on. And I can see the huge difference there in terms of the growth for me in that area too.
Love that. So, in closing, Tanya, to that entrepreneur who's sitting there right now listening to this interview, feeling exhausted, secretly hating the fact that they're having to do everything by themselves, and actually afraid to ask for help, what do you say to them that will help them to make a different decision before they burn out and basically cost themselves their own business?
I would say, what's your end goal? And if that end goal is that you no longer want to burn the midnight oil, working 7 days a week, working in the evenings, all of those things. If you're wanting to grow your business, then that's your move to move forward. Because if you don't make that move to get support and help, you're going to still be stuck there. So you got to weigh the pros and cons. Which one do you want the most? And I think that's your answer there in terms of helping you to move forward. You always have to keep that, and I tell people that all the time, you always have to keep that goal in your head because that's what's going to help you. Like I said, when it gets challenging to let go, that's what's going to be your motivator to help you continue to release the things that you need to release in order to hit that goal. Because otherwise, you're not going to reach it.
I love it. Well, Tanya, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Tell us how people should reach you if they're listening to this and they're saying, I need to talk to her.
Yes. Our website, teamdelegate.com, there's a place on there where you can schedule a call with me. And then I'm also on LinkedIn at Tanya Thomas.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate your time. I know that someone heard something that's going to help them for sure. And I cannot wait to see you again because we will be in another conference together in the near future. We always are.
Yes. Thank you, Tish.
Have a wonderful day. I know you all heard something that was good for you. And if you also struggle with delegation, like I have for many years, then you definitely want to make sure you reach out to Tanya and make a decision that can help you grow your whole business. I keep saying it. We don't want, as the business owners, to be the bottleneck in our own process. and cause ourselves to lose business, to lose opportunities because we're too busy in the weeds to be able to really get up, grab the vision, share the business, and grow the business. So I hope you heard something that will be helpful for you. Put it into practice, and we'll see you back here next week on the Sold Out Sales podcast. Thanks for listening to the Sold Out Sales podcast. I would be so appreciative if you would show me and my amazing guests some love by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, go over to tishtimes.com/resource page and make sure you pick up your sales and networking handbook, especially for introverts. Also, I would love to continue this conversation, so make sure you connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll see you back here next week.